Well, I want to thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
No worries, no worries.
Sticks and Stones.
Hmm.
I wanted to tell you, I happened to look up a fact, and there's actually a Toy Hall of Fame. And in the Toy Hall of Fame, the first two toys that was discovered by mankind was a stick and a stone.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, how did the name come to you, and how did this band become a reality?
Sure, sure. I'll start at the beginning. So we originally, me and my brother Nick, were in a music school. Like my parents put us through a rock school to learn instruments. So I started drums, and my brother started guitar when we were both 7. So he's 2 years older than me. So he got a 2 year head start. And then we started doing about when we were 10. When I was 10 and he was 12, we started doing like live performances through the school, like a school of rock type of program.
Mhm.
Um, and we were put with another kid and then one of the instructors. And then we had all of our set planned out. And then we get to the show. And then they're like, so what's the name of the band? And we had not thought of anything. We just said, like, oh, we'll figure it out down the line. We'll figure it out down the line, kind of
Right.
push. And then randomly, I just came up with Sticks and Stones. And that was in 2014. And it's kind of stuck since then. And then we started going more professional in 2019. We started playing our first, paid gigs as an individual band. And it's just been, full gas going forward. With the album coming out last year, and we've been really sticking with it, and it's everything's been going good. Everything's been getting, increasingly better, and got to stay on that trajectory.
And speaking of the album, is that a culmination of songs from that 2014 on stage?
No, but sort of. It's kind of built off of that. That those songs were written in 2022, I believe, with Johnny Karkazis, who's a producer and worked with bands like Disturbed. And it was kind of a accumulation of our songwriting getting better and better and better and finding our sound. And we got heavier and heavier. We kind of started off with almost like a Van Halen sort of sound back
Hmm.
in when we were younger. Um, and then we just kind of wrote and wrote and wrote until you get better at it. You got to practice your craft and get better. And that's kind of what we did um, for, years and years growing up.
And I wanted to ask you as well if you could speak on one of my favorite songs off the album, which is We Are One.
Oh, yeah, sure. Um, yeah, "We Are One" is a song we wrote during COVID, and it was just more about you know showing that how in a world so crazy, with shutdowns and stuff, we
Hmm.
have such a great tool in the internet to be able to be connected, still through a time where you can't really see each other, but you can still be connected, and kind of solidifies the fact that we are all one people and we need to be united and um, bask in our similarities rather than our differences.
Sure, and I think that in it is a great tool. It's provide me. I've had interviews today in Italy, Germany, and now with you today,
Hmm.
and but it also has its downfalls.
Yeah.
And the as far as the record industry today, Spotify is still being attacked with the way they're treating artists and stuff like that today. I wanted to ask, what's your take on the music of today, and what do you feel is necessary to break through in the industry today?
It's kind of interesting. It's way different than, years, well, many years prior, like, 10 to 20 years ago. With Spotify, with the emergence of social media being so important. And nowadays you kind of have to be appealing numbers wise, right? Your Instagram, how many
Mhm.
numbers, that's what people first look before they listen to music,
Sure.
before anyone in the industry will even, give you a second glance. They ask, what are your numbers? And it's sort of a baseline to get into the door. And then they'll start looking at, what are your, credits? What are your songs? So it's kind of a catch 22 where you have to already have somewhat, especially for the big labels, you kind of have to have made it already, and you have to have made your own audience already, and then they kind of just come on, and then they'll kind of hop a piggyback on you and kind of help
Sure.
you out and push it as far as they can help you. But it's definitely weird. It's cool in a way where everybody has kind of an equal opportunity, with the sense of Instagram and social media and stuff being an equalizer, whereas back in the day, you know, it was pure luck in the sense that, you know, you're hoping that someone important would be at your show,
Sure.
right? Some sort of executive or A&R rep would be at your show, pick you up, and you get discovered, right? Whereas now you can release your music at will anywhere you want. You can get all your stuff out there. But it's also incredibly hard because now everybody's out there, right?
Right.
So it's an oversaturation, and to be able to stand out is incredibly hard. And you kind of have to solidify yourself already as a uh, an artist with a huge audience before you can become a solidified artist. It's kind of a weird backwards way of doing things, but it's kind of how it's fallen these last couple of years.
And getting back to the album, another song I wanted to talk about was Last Stand. I wanted to ask if you could speak on that track.
For sure, for sure. It's interesting. That song is actually um, about an anime called Full Metal Alchemist. There's a certain scene in that show where a character returns after you think they've been killed off, right? And they come back fighting for, you know, their castle, coming back to their castle and coming back to claim what was theirs, and they're coming to make their last stand. And that's sort of what the idea stemmed from. But overall, it's just, you know, it's a it's sort of about that, just, you know, making your last stand, going out, you know,
Mhm.
going going full tilt, and not going down without a fight. And that can be, you know, shifted to many different things, but the original
Sure,
idea came
absolutely.
from watching an anime that me and my brother watched.
And you have a new single out, Savior. And I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you, is this an indication of the sound of the band moving forward?
Yeah. This song Savior was a song we worked with Joshua Saldate, who's a producer out in the States, Grammy nominated producer out there, works with like Alter Bridge, Mammoth. I think he's doing some stuff with Slash. And really, what was a lot different about this song and kind of the songs moving forward is Nick is doing the mixing and mastering and the production a lot himself. And we've gotten a little bit heavier since the first album. I won't even. It's kind of weird. Not heavier in a sense of the music's gotten heavier, but the productions have gotten heavier and more dramatic. Less of that raw. Dead Memories was more of a raw sounding record.
Mhm.
Very like emotionally charged sounding record, I guess you can say. Whereas now Savior and stuff is more polished. You kind of your early 2000s active rock kind of sound, which is kind of the way we're moving forward with the new stuff that's coming out next year. A new album coming out next year, and it'll all be kind of in this sort of vein.
And I wanted to ask you if you could speak on the album artwork and the artist that was involved in Dead Memories.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Dead Memories artwork was kind of a mix of things. So I did a lot of it, like the whole design, and did it essentially through, you know, graphic design websites and stuff, and made it through there. And it took me a long time because I'm not too adept with Photoshop and stuff, so I had to learn how to do all that stuff. And I remember Nick kind of brought the idea of that angel um,
Mhm.
to me, um, in sort of a rough version, and then I kind of looked for different stuff on the internet, different inspirations, and then kind of drew it up from there. And I've been, you know, doing art for a long time, drawing and stuff like that when I was young. So it was cool to get back to that and be able to, you know, make something for our music and artwork for that. And then past the Dead Memories artwork, we've been working with a bunch of artists that we know. Like Savior, for example, was done
Mhm.
by Chloe Trujillo, Rob Trujillo's wife of Metallica.
Oh, okay.
So she does amazing artwork, and we commissioned one of her pieces, and then I went through and, you know, added some changes and stuff that we were gonna do for the album art and or sorry, for the single art. And yeah, it's been awesome. And then Feel Again was done with artist named Melanie, and she did some great work. And it's been really cool finding a relationship between art, like graphic art, and music, and being able to relate the two.
And I wanted to ask you if you could take me back in time and tell me how your musical career started. At what age did you begin?
Well, I started like I mentioned before, me and Nick both started at 7. So Nick's 2 years older than me, so I started 2 years after him. I started at 7 in music school, like I said,
Hmm.
um, and kind of just went from there. Learned how to play the drums. I was always inspired by Animal from the Muppets
Ah,
as a kid because I was a bit of a crazy kid. My parents were always like, "How are you gonna play the drums? You know, you're so clumsy and uncoordinated." And now that I look back at it, I'm like, that's the exact recipe for a drummer. Because it's so you have to be so uncoordinatedly coordinated, if that makes sense, to be a
sure.
drummer. You need to have four brains working in all four limbs at the same time, which is sort of weird, but it kind of makes sense that an uncoordinated, clumsy kid would be able to play the drums. Um, and then moving on from there, we grew up in a family, a musical family. My grandpa played music for a long time. My mom was a classically trained pianist. So we always grew up in music. When the family came over for Thanksgivings, Christmas, we were always jamming. So we are in an environment of playing music, being around music all the time. Our parents put us onto all like the '80s rock. My mom was a huge Metallica fan, put us onto Metallica. And we used to actually we used to play a lot of Metallica when we were growing up. In those kind of cover band kind of spots of with the school rock stuff, and we always used to play Metallica. And we got to a point where we were considering becoming a Metallica tribute band when we were. I think this was before we just started making our own original music because we just love Metallica so much. And we had gotten really good at playing Metallica. My brother was Nick was really good at doing a Hetfield impression, so we were considering that, but then we just decided, I'd like to, create our own music and give it
Sure.
give it a shot, give the original um, band, dream a shot.
And I always admire drummers because I started out with guitar. And I always thought when I was in high school bands and stuff, just screwing around, I was always like, oh, drums are easy, and I'd get behind the kit and I go da 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 da, and my feet would go da 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 on the pedals. I couldn't keep the timing the same, and then I
Yeah,
totally respected drummers from that point on.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a weird thing because as a drummer, after playing with so many years playing drums, it kind of feels natural. But then watching like my brother Nick can also play drums, but he started playing drums in high school, and I sort of was teaching him some stuff. And to see him play when he originally started, and see how easy stuff can be difficult, easy stuff that I thought was easy that I didn't realize was difficult for me when I was growing up when I was like 7, 8 years old. I got a big head start. Um, was difficult, and then yeah, but that's kind of with every instrument, right? Because I have
Mm,
massive respect when I watch my brother play guitar or bass, or because I try and play guitar and bass, and I'm horrible. I'm atrocious. Um, and I'm like, how do you manage to do this? Like picking each string, I'm always messing up. Even like piano, I learned piano a little bit, and I try. And reading music, I have so much respect for people that can read music like right off the top of their head, like
sure.
crazy. Um, and sight reading. I mean, sight reading for drums is a lot easier, and I can do that for drums. But for like piano and stuff, I had to do through high school, through music classes and stuff. I was just like, wow, there's like pianists out there that can just read, put a sheet in front of
Yeah.
them.
Well,
I'm like, geez, man, it's crazy.
and along that musical journey, I wanted to ask you, what do you feel has been the best advice that's been given to you along the way?
Well, I would say the best advice um, was given to us. I would say by our buddy Ryan Roxy, who's the guitar player for Alice Cooper.
Mm,
Um, and it was a simple thing where he just said, don't be a dick.
right,
When you're in the industry, is everybody knows everybody, and no one wants to work with a dick. So
right,
always be respectful, always be down to earth, and always be yourself, and always be authentic. But always have mutual respect for everybody, and don't be a dick. Right?
right.
That's the and that is as simple of advice it is. That is massive advice for not only just music, but just life in general. And trying to always better yourself and treat people how you would want to be treated. Um, and I think that was great advice.
And we spoke of the upcoming album that you're currently working on. I wanted to
Hmm.
ask you, before that album is released, is there something else that bands can look for next from you?
Yeah, we're gonna have so we had Feel Again and Savior out September and then November. Um, we're gonna be releasing music in January, singles from the album starting in January, and about every 6 weeks from January, you can look forward to a Sticks and Stones song being dropped. Um, we had to avoid December because that's the Mariah Carey month. Um, there's too many people going "Last Christmas" for them to care about
Sure,
listening to rock tunes. Um, but January we're gonna be dropping some songs, and we're really excited about what we've worked on, and what we've the product we've come out with, and we really think it's the best stuff we've been working on, and the stuff we've been working on now past this stuff that's been written is even better. And as long as you keep that mindset of what you keep writing gets better and better and better,
sure.
um, that's the way to go about it. And you look back and go, I remember my drum instructor Dave Langeth, who plays with Kim Mitchell, and he played with Nelly Furtado a while back. I remember we brought our first EP, which was like almost his Van Halen sounding stuff, and we were really young. I think I was 14 maybe when we recorded these songs. And I remember him telling me, you know, this is, there's maybe no hits here, but this is a good learning experience. And he's like, trust
Sure,
me, when you come back in 5 years from now and you listen back to these songs, you're gonna go, wow, I've gotten a lot better. And
sure,
he says, as long as you can do that, you'll have a good future in songwriting and stuff. And he
sure.
said,
And
it's
that's
all
a
about that. It's all about getting better and working on your craft.
sure. And if you go back and look at great bands, like one of my favorite bands is Rush. And if you
Mm-hmm.
listen to the early Rush material, it's absolutely fantastic. But the
Mm-hmm.
band evolved and expounded their horizons in so many ways throughout their career.
Yeah.
And all of it is fantastic.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, as much as I look back at the stuff I wrote when I was 14 and go, maybe that could have been better. But now I look back at, the Dead Memories album, and I'm always gonna think, that even if our sound has evolved and we sound different, um, that this is still some of the some stuff that I feel passionate about. This
Sure,
this
absolutely.
and you can always appreciate your own craft, and respect the state that you're in when you wrote all that stuff and came up with it.
And I want to let you know we have a mutual friend. Heidi is a personal friend of mine,
Oh
and
yeah.
she's always been a great in the music scene and done so much for so many artists.
Oh yeah, 100%. She's super supportive and a great person, and she always tries to help everybody, and it's amazing what she does. And bands would be nowhere without people like that. That
Right.
are always willing to support live music and support artists, especially now in the rock scene. It's kind of what we need, especially in where we are in Toronto. The rock scene is not, it's not the biggest thing in Toronto. You got country, you got your rap. But the rock scene is really held together by people like Heidi and people, that are always willing to support live bands and just love the music. And it's awesome.
And getting back to the album, I wanted to ask you, what is the best way to get a physical copy of the album and any merchandise that you have?
Yeah, I mean the best thing is at shows. We've always got CDs at shows, and merch. And we're looking to set up an online shop. But there's a lot of complications with that, getting that set up. But we're definitely gonna be looking to that in the future. And for now, if you come to a live show, um, then we'll always have stuff, tons of merch and good stuff to purchase, and it'd be great. It's always great to have people support you through your merch and make stuff that people want to buy.
And I wanted to ask you, well, I see Sticks and Stones in Ohio.
I hope so. We played Ohio now twice. We played there with John Five, um,
Mhm.
last year. Um, early in the year, we played in Cleveland and we played in Columbus. So
Wow.
hopefully we make our way back. We had a great time there, and we always find our way. It's a weird thing. We always find our way in Troy, Ohio. Somehow, we always end up in Troy, Ohio when driving down either to Nashville or something. It's always the in between point. And I
Right.
can tell you, I think we've maybe stayed in Troy, Ohio, like 8 times.
Oh,
You know,
you're
it's a
kidding here.
random, place that always frequent, but it's like right in the middle between us and Nashville. Um, so we always find ourselves in Ohio, and yeah.
And lastly, my friend, I wanted to ask you if you could give a message to your fans, what message would you give them?
Um, I would just say, um, you know, me personally, when it comes to music or drawing or anything, or even writing, being creative, I love being creative. And I urge everybody out there to find something to express their creativity through, and just have fun, enjoy life, and don't be a dick, like Ryan
Yeah,
Rod.
right, sure.
Treat everybody as you want to be treated. And I hope everyone looks forward to some of the stuff that we do, and I hope everybody, digs it, and that'd be awesome. And hope we can make it out to Ohio, everywhere in the states, South America, Europe, with the next coming years, and that'd be awesome.
Well, I wanted to take a moment to thank you for the music you create. I've loved everything this band has done from its inception, and I look forward to what lies ahead.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and we're really excited too.
And please keep me informed of any updates as they come about, my friend. I'd love to get together and talk again soon.
For sure, for sure. Keep you in the loop.
All right, thank you, my friend, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you for your time, and this was awesome.
All right, take care, my
All
friend.
right, take care.